Hi, I'm CoffBeanieArt. If you're here, thank you for clicking on the video. Now, I've always been aware of Miraculous Ladybug and DC crossovers, and while I've never really looked at any of the content or fanfics myself, I am aware that they exist and that they are fairly popular. Sometimes it'll be that the Justice League has to come over and help Ladybug and Cat Noir with an issue in Paris, or it'll be that Marinette was secretly one of Bruce Wayne's children all along. Sometimes you'll even have fanfics where people are shipping Marinette with one of the Robins. And I didn't really get the appeal until after watching some DC movies with Miraculous Ladybug on the brain. After watching some movies and coming up with some ideas, I've come up with this own little AU, just basically my take on the Miraculous Ladybug and DC crossovers. So today I'm just gonna introduce this AU, talk about the main story this crossover will follow, while also mainly focusing on Marinette. So first off, I'm gonna talk about these two designs. I guess it's mainly 4 designs. That's technically only 3 because one of them is just me trying the can. Whatever. 3 designs I have for Marinette, and then the last speed paint is going to be me talking about basically the setup and kind of the differences in the story and Marinette's backstory for this AU. So design wise, on the left I just have your basic Marinette, the one that everyone knows. I've kind of realized this afterwards that I probably should have come up with some kind of redesign or aged up, I guess, design for Marinette, because I have very little understanding on the French school system, but from my understanding, what we see in the show is the American equivalent to freshman high school is what I think. And since this story, or the first portion of the story, takes place from her sophomore year to her senior year, she should technically have a different design than just the one we're used to. I don't know. That's just me being nitpicky. I tried to do something, but I just didn't have the energy, and I also had to do the 2 other drawings, so I didn't really want to do another one. I've seen her season 6 design. I think it's cute. Maybe I'll redesign and give all of the main characters, and by main characters I mean Marinette and all her friends, new designs if the rest of the ones for season 6 are ugly. But besides that, I don't know. I'll probably just stick with their basic designs season 1 to season 5, because those are iconic in my mind. And like I said, I think her season 6 design is cute, but I'm very sad to see her first design go. Is very iconic to me. And then if you couldn't already tell by the sketching, her design on the right is Marinette as Robin. I don't know if I know that there are a lot of Marinette as Robin. I feel that they has to exist somewhere. I personally just haven't seen them, but someone's definitely done Marinette as a Robin, so this is just kind of my take on it. In this AU, she is, I don't know, it seems kind of icky. Wherever I put her is going to feel kind of icky, but I'm having her be the second Robin. 1, because I kind of need to get her time as Robin out of the way, just because there's a bit of time in her story where she retires as a vigilante, so it'd be cool if it was she was a very early on Robin, and then when she comes back to being a hero, she then is then reintroduced to Bad Family, but it has a whole bunch of new members. I think that'd be fun to do. And putting her after Jason felt weird, just because I feel Tim's becoming Robin is very special and very unique to him, and I didn't want to mess with that. And I feel the way Tim became Robin after Jason, Marinette wouldn't have been able to do that. So she's Robin number 2 in this AU. I'm sorry if that upsets anyone. For her Robin design, I came up with it a while ago, and I honestly just got very attached to it. I could probably change some aspects if I wanted to, but I think it looks cute. I think it's very in line with early on Robin design, so I kind of think I like it. I think it's cute. I gave her little multi-mouse earbuds just because I feel we're not using the quantum masking thing anymore, so I feel like she would change her hair, and I think it's a very cute idea of her like in the Batmobile. It's like speeding forward and she's like wait, and she's like putting her hair up in her buns. I think that'd be very silly. I feel like overall her design, oh no, it does kind of stray, because from my understanding, at least like early on in the comics, like when Jason Todd was first introduced, his design, he basically had the same suit as Dick, just because early on Jason was very much just supposed to be like another Dick Grayson, but obviously he's changed, and I've seen people make some really cool redesigns, like making all of the Robin's outfits different. Like she still has her yellow cape, she still has the little like yellow buttons, I guess, I don't know what they're called, the things that like, I don't know what are those buttons, I guess, I don't know what else to call them. She still has the shorts, but I've made it so it's like, I don't know how you describe it, just like a one piece, I guess. Her like red tunic part kind of goes down and becomes shorts, and then the green, instead of it being like the little green shorts, it's just green tights. And because I didn't exactly feel comfortable giving her bare legs, so I just went with the tights. And then I also gave her elbow pads, just because I feel like elbow pads are really cute, and just so she could be extra safe, just a little bit more protection, I guess. I don't know, elbow pads versus bare arms, very minimum difference, but again, I just think it's very cute. And then for her belt, I imagine, like, obviously she has like the yellow pockets and then the little brown like tube things. I don't know, I wanted to give her, like, okay, looking back, I feel like it's really chunky, like maybe practically it wouldn't be the best to move around in, but I feel like she would carry lots of things in her pockets. I feel like this Marinette as Robin, her thing is that she's supposed to be very like resourceful. Like she's not very good with the weapons that Batman gives her, or like that he tries to train her with, but she's very good at using the resources around her. So I'm like, imagine Marinette as Robin and Batman going from like scene to scene, and just in her gut she feels like, wait, maybe she sees something, she's like, wait, I might need this for later, and so she just carries it around with her, and then ends up becoming useful later on. So that's just kind of my mindset. Also, it's not pictured here, but her weapon in this is still a yo-yo, kind of like what I mentioned before. I imagine one mission she probably just picked up a yo-yo and just started going crazy with it, and then Lucius probably developed like a better fit yo-yo for her that she could like practically use out on the field. So it isn't pictured here, but she still has her silly little yo-yo. Now for her other designs. So I guess maybe I should probably start off with like context of the story first. So like I mentioned before, Marinette has her little time as Robin, and then she gives up being a vigilante after story things that I will explain in a bit. Basically, what happens leaves Marinette in a very bad mental state, and so she is not doing her best currently as an adult. On the left is Marinette, kind of grown up, in like a casual outfit. I tried doing the math for this. I feel like she'd be around her mid-20s maybe. I feel like that's probably the best, mid to late 20s, because this is like after college and she probably would have already graduated. In the last speed paint, I tried to make it look like Marinette had eye bags, and in this one I feel like her eye bags are much more pronounced. She's just, ever since she became Robin, she's just in a constant state of being tired. And also, she has her hair chopped off. I feel like that's very, like, a popular headcanon for an aged up Marinette, but I also feel like it might just be easier for her to handle if her hair was just short. She probably doesn't have the energy to want to deal with stuff like that. I kept her with, like, her pink clothes for casual, but here it's just, like, she has her hoodie on, she has her leggings, she just has slip-on shoes, just stuff that's, like, easy and comfy, and, like, she doesn't have the energy to come up with cool or like cute outfits. She just kind of throws on whatever and just calls it a day. Then on the right we have like my little ladybug outfit for her. I guess, is it a ladybug redesign? Kind of, maybe, because she's aged up, so it doesn't really count. Hair is still cut short. And I know I had a thing in the last one where it's like she looked different because of her hairstyle, but she's just gonna, there's not much she can do about it. Her hair's just short. For her ladybug outfit, I kind of tried to lean more into, like, the anatomy of a ladybug, I guess. So, like, her legs and her arms and her neck kind of, I think, I don't know, I changed her neck slightly from like, it was just like a really minor change from here from like one of these old designs I've had of her, but basically like all of that is just all black, kind of how with like a ladybug, like all of their like arms are black, it's just like their wings are red. I did, of course, like something that I added here in this design was like she has her little, I think I made the soles, did I make the bottoms of her feet red? I don't remember. I don't know. Maybe that's something I'll do in like future drawings of her, but I still kept her with like the arm pads, and then she has like these little lines below her biceps, and then the little tops of her boots are meant to be red just to like break it up, just to make it a bit more interesting. And then of course she has her little red gloves, and then like the main part of her body is red with like the black polka dots. Honestly, I probably could have added more detail to like the torso section, kind of with like, think Nightwing, where it's like his suit is technically kind of armored, even though it looks skin tight, kind of going off of that logic. And then, honestly, like, I'll be honest, her belt is just for show. I don't know, I just kind of wanted to add some blue in there, just some pops of it. And it's not here, maybe I'll do it later. I want it to be a part of her story where, kind of similar to the Canon Miraculous show, how she has all these power-ups, I imagine she probably has a bunch of like things she could add on to her suit depending on what villain she at least plans on fighting, or again just vibe. She's like, my gut feeling tells me that I need this, and I kind of want one of those additions to be wings. I imagine she'd have some that she could put on when fighting some very specific villains that I have in mind, and I feel like, again, I don't know why I added the blue, I just needed some blue to make it pop. And also another thing is that I don't, like, I made it like just a simple color where it's more like the comics and less like the show where you can actually see their eyes, because I like just like the whites of the domino masks, but I feel like it'd be more interesting if the whites were instead different colors, so it's also blue, again, just to make it stand out a teensy bit. I like how, like, in general, how her design looks. I wish, like, in this one and then in the drawing I'm going to show next, I kind of wish I included a bit more detailed, I guess, just to give it more of that, like, armored look, just because I prefer that to make it look like it's actually protecting her. I don't know, I get most of that from, like, fan art or, like, redesigns of, like, Bat family members, so I'll probably have to take that more into consideration next time. Now I get to talk about the main story and setup for this AU, teehee. I actually have bullet points for this part because it's a lot, and I know that I definitely leave out some bits if I didn't have a semi-script, but I guess the context for this drawing is like, this would be like her hypothetical, like, debut, like the first issue after Marinette's probably, like, if she were hypothetically, like, actually in DC Comics, she probably wouldn't have been in a few of the comics for a while, and so this would kind of be, like, her return. Like, people would remember back when she was in the comics as Robin, and then they remember when she retired, and so this is, like, her big, like, oh, she's back. Anyways, that was just kind of my idea for it. That's why I have both her as Robin and then her as Ladybug. Also, extra bit of context. This entire AU takes place in Gotham. Maybe they'll go to Paris for something if I ever come up with an idea for it, but I basically stuck Marinette and a lot of, basically all of the main characters from Ladybug, and I put them all in Gotham. They're all American now. If I had a nickel for every time I made a Miraculous AU or they're all American, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. So, Tom and Sabine still have their bakery, it's just in Gotham. And while it isn't very popular among, like, tourists, it's very popular among, like, your average Gothamite. Like, real Gothamites know to go to Tom and Sabine's bakery for the best pastries and the best bread. Like, they know that that's where all the good stuff is. And I imagine that in this AU, especially as Thomas and Martha were probably trying to move away from the corrupt past of the Waynes, maybe trying to get more in touch with the people, they probably would frequent or at least place a lot of orders at this bakery, and so Bruce kind of knew them as, like, another example of, like, a quote-unquote, like, a family business. So after his parents' passing, Bruce would often come by to the bakery or get a lot of orders, and because he was constantly coming by even as he got older, he was there like ever since like he was there when it was just Tom and Sabine. And he remembers like back when Marinette was born, when she was little, he remembers how they would slowly like incorporate her into the bakery, like they would have her there to pack orders, or how they would like give her the job of like manning the counter, or like having her actually like bake stuff. Like that's how he initially recognized her, and that's how he became familiar with her, whereas Marinette just kind of recognized him as a regular of the bakery. And it's all fine and dandy until, oopsie daisies, we live in Gotham and there's this like attack on the bakery. And this attack on the bakery should be like, in and of itself, it's also kind of mysterious, and like the intentions behind it like are kind of ambiguous, because it could either be a random attack with people robbing this bakery and Tom and Sabine getting caught in the crossfire, or the robbery could have been an attack to get something specific that they thought Tom and Sabine were hiding, and in an attempt to get it, Tom and Sabine could have been taken or killed for not cooperating. And again, also with that, like their fate, like what exactly happened to Tom and Sabine is kind of mysterious, because there was blood at the scene, but like their bodies were never found, and so no one exactly knows what happened to them. While this attack at the bakery was happening, Marinette wasn't at home, she was at school, and so by the time she got home, she basically just saw the GCPD outside of the bakery. Also, I should probably mention that's a similar situation to the show, where it's like the bakery and then they like live above it. So it was Commissioner Gordon who kept her away from the scene and tried to explain what happened to her. And so while they were investigating, she stayed very distant from it, just out of shock, and being slightly away from the scene. That's where she met Batman. Batman, who obviously feels sympathy or empathy, I don't know the difference. He feels for Marinette, like he feels very sorry, and he like semi-comforts her. I don't know, he does comfort her. He like holds her and hugs her while she cries, and he kind of tries to ask her questions in a very like calm, like not trying to be intrusive way. He did question her, and she just kept insisting that like she doesn't know anyone who would have it out for parents. She didn't think that anyone had thought badly of her parents, so she didn't think that this would be like a targeted attack, and she just honestly truly just has no idea why this would have happened or what's going on. And kind of like I said before, based on the scene, it looks like a robbery, and it was tested that there is blood from Tom and Sabine on the scene, indicating that there was an attack. But like I said, the issue comes from the fact that their bodies were nowhere on the scene, and it wasn't just the bakery that was attacked. Like I said, their house, or like their home, their living, is located above the bakery, and so they discovered that other parts of their home were also searched through and kind of left in a state of like being messed up by whoever did this. The GCPD kept investigating. After they were done, Batman still kept investigating, but not much on the attack was found, and so they were never able to persecute anyone. And then the issue came with Marinette, where she had no one to stay with until they could get in contact with her extended family. So as Bruce Wayne, under the guise that he heard about what happened to the bakery, and as one of their top supporters, he offered to take her in and let her stay with him. So Marinette took the rest of her freshman year off, and she continued her classes at Wayne Manor, and she spent most of her time with Alfred, as Bruce was usually out doing work. Dick was out a lot, so she didn't meet him until much later. She'd sometimes see Barbara there on rare occasion, Commissioner Gordon whenever he needed to question her, and Lucius, who would sometimes be there to ask Bruce about, quote-unquote Wayne industry stuff. With Marinette, Bruce didn't want to do the same thing with Dick. He kind of wanted to try to help her get through this without resorting to becoming like a superhero or a vigilante, but that still was kind of difficult on his end, just because he was still trying to be out there doing crime. But when he was at home, he would kind of try to be active with her and try to help her like get out of her rut, but she just was not capable of doing it. And Alfred, who had he was able to spend a lot more time with Marinette, he also tried to make her a bit more active, tried to convince her to get back into baking or with her designing, but she just could not do it. She felt too tired to do anything, and she just felt lost. That was until she found something. Ooh. So Marinette, she came across the Batcave by complete accident. She was looking for Alfred, but the place was so big and it was completely empty. And in this AU, I imagine it's still the thing with the clock. And she had managed to trip over and knock into the clock, and just so happened that she switched it to the exact right time. Like, I think the time, I don't remember what it is exactly, it was the time of his parents' death. She knocked into the clock so hard that she managed to get the hands to swing at the exact right time, and it opened up and she just tripped right into the Batcave. So Batman was notified that there was an intruder in the Batcave, and he saw Marinette sliding down in there through the cameras, and at the time Alfred was down there cleaning up as he does. You know, obviously she freaked out over the realization that Bruce Wayne was Batman, but upon realizing this, she immediately wanted to be the next Robin. She wanted to be out there fighting crime by his side. In her mind, wasn't Batman investigating the disappearance of her parents? She wanted to be out there helping him find answers, because she also wanted to help find out what happened to them. She kind of needed that closure for herself too, and if there was anything she could do to help, she wanted to be out there doing it. And like I said before, Bruce didn't really want her to get into this Robin stuff, so he was hesitant. She was emotional, she probably wasn't thinking very rationally, and if it weren't for her parents, she wouldn't be thinking of becoming a Robin. And he was did he really want to risk the possibility of putting her in danger? And if she did become a Robin, he'd have to take her in permanently. But that being said, she had already found out, and he didn't exactly want the information of him being Batman out there. And Alfred suggested the idea that she could prepare and train to be a Robin to at least keep her productive. And whether they actually took her out on the field, that would come later, but at least her training and her being more active, that could maybe help her get out of her rut. So at least being active in that way could kind of help her take her mind off things. And so, as they knew that she liked designing, he gave her the task of making, herself a Robin outfit. So she took one of Dick's old outfits, modified it, and added new aspects to make it her own. And whenever Bruce wasn't busy, she would train alongside him, mainly in the physical things. And she was pretty well off in that aspect, as I imagine she had to do some heavy lifting in the bakeries, and so she was kind of fine in that aspect. He also gave her some simulations for mental training, for all that detective work. And while it wasn't anything she was used to, she actually caught on quicker than he thought she would. But what she struggled the most with was things concerning stealth and agility. She's still very much a klutz, and she struggled to keep herself hidden. And in terms of weapons, she struggled using the batarangs or the bow staff, and she'd either keep hitting herself or knocking over random objects in the process. So because of this, he wasn't comfortable taking her out yet, not even on a patrol or an actual investigation. And as much as she tried, she was still clumsy, and she was still struggling with the gadgets. So Marinette, frustrated and as stubborn as she can be, she hid in the Batmobile because Batman wouldn't let her out on his own, so she just hid in the Batmobile and waited for him to go. And once Batman was too far to turn back, she popped out and was like, whoa, this is cool, oh my gosh. And obviously, Batman probably got mad, but luckily for her, on the night she decided to sneak out with him, nothing too bad happened. There were no big attacks by any major villains. It was a lot of smaller crimes, like robberies or muggings, and she was able to show how resourceful she could be. She didn't pull out any of the bad gadgets that were offered to her, but she instead used the environment around her to fight back. And after this, she would be with Batman every night on patrol. As she kept proving herself, he felt more comfortable with letting her out as Robin. And her clumsiness did get her into a few situations, a typical oh no, Robin got kidnapped, now Batman's gotta save the day kind of type storylines. And issues still came with her gadgets and weapons. She never quite knew where things were in her belt, always picking out the wrong things. And with her bow staff, she still struggled to use it out on the field. But like I said, I imagine on one mission, she probably would have, it was like something that takes place in a toy store, and she just like went and grabbed the first thing she saw, and she grabbed a yo-yo, and she was like, oh gosh, what do I do with this? But then she managed to use it, either just like the way she does in the show, just like bonking someone in the head with it, or using it to like pull something over. She was able to, defeat some villains and fight back with it. And so I imagine then she met up with Lucius later, and they helped develop one that was like, it was long enough that she could use it to tie stuff around, probably like with a strong enough string so that it wouldn't snap so easily, it wasn't so flimsy, and probably weighted in some way so that it could always return back to her, kind of like it does in the show. I don't know, I imagine that Marinette and Lucius are kind of besties, kind of with how he's always making stuff for Batman. I think she likes to go and see how he makes the stuff, and she likes to, he teaches her some things, and I think they would be good friends. But that's Marinette as Robin with Batman. Now that Marinette was officially Bruce's ward, and as she felt, as good as she could be, considering that her parents were still missing, she wanted to go out again the way she used to. And since Bruce is Bruce, this is still in his early years, he only ever went out to make some social appearances from time to time, and all those events and galas. Galas? Is that how you say galas? I think so, yeah, galas. Marinette didn't exactly mind this. For one, she would take the opportunity to design and wear her own outfits to these events, which she liked. Very fun of her. But she isn't used to this stuff, so she would mainly stay by Bruce's side. That was until eventually she found company with a few group of kids, and it was at one of these events where she met Adrian, Chloe, and Kagami. Out of the three, Adrian was the one she was the most familiar with. She loves fashion, she keeps up with all the latest news regarding fashion and top designers, so of course she was kind of starstruck when she saw Adrian, model and son of Gabriel Agreste, one of the best fashion designers basically worldwide. And once he met Marinette, he really liked her company. He found her energy really refreshing, as she was honest about what she saw since she didn't grow up in the same environment as them. And as much as he liked Marinette, though, when it was just the two of them, things got awkward. Marinette still felt really out of place and saw Adrian on this pedestal, too great for her to even make eye contact with, and she'd get really nervous. And Adrian is Adrian. He's awkward, and he hasn't really talked to new people on his own. All the people he knows, he's known since he was little through his dad. So this is where Kagami comes in. Like Adrian, she finds her company really refreshing. When it comes to these events, they kind of almost act like echo chambers at times, and Marinette brought something new, but Kagami is more blunt. She would ask Marinette questions about her situation with her parents and suddenly being in this world of the elite 1%, and they would compare their backgrounds and how that's how they eventually got to know each other, and that's how they grew closer. Chloe was the one who was opposed to Marinette's inclusion in their little group. She knew Marinette wasn't really, quote-unquote, one of them, as she saw it, since it's pretty well known that, Bruce has no kids, at least not yet, but, she was just kind of taken in out of pity, or that's how she saw it, at least. Chloe did her research and found out that, she found out what happened to Marinette and her parents, and that she was really just, a baker's daughter. But the problem came when Chloe tried to shame her for this in front of Adrian and Kagami. If she ever tried to belittle Marinette in front of them, they would all call her out for being rude. And while Marinette would also call Chloe out, she did still appreciate that Adrian and Kagami would stand up for her. And this was enough to stop Chloe, mainly as Adrian would get mad at her for being mean to Marinette. And while she didn't like Marinette, she valued her friendship with Adrian enough that she did not want to ruin it. And she couldn't deny the fact that Marinette was still heavily associated with Bruce, who's a very rich and very powerful man that she didn't want to possibly get on the bad side of. And so while they would still be antagonistic towards each other, that was mainly in private, making it very clear that they didn't like each other, but with Adrian and Kagami around, they would tolerate each other. But as news of Robin became more public, their topics would often lead into talks about, ooh, there's a new girl Robin, and they thought it was very interesting, obviously because one, it's like, ooh, girl Robin, and two, she seemed to be around their age. And as Robin, Marinette had run into like Adrian, Kagami, and Chloe a few times. I imagine high profile kids are very easy targets for people who want money, just like, I don't know, good old hostage situation. So she had to be careful when it came to like what she revealed while talking to them, but they all just kind of gush about how much they love her. Chloe would probably talk about how, like, oh yeah, they're definitely like BFFs, and she definitely has Robin on speed dial, and it was very, very obvious that Adrian probably had a crush on this new Robin. Ooh. But besides her time as Robin and all the galas, she was later enrolled into high school. I tried to look up like a specific high school. I think it's whichever school Dick Grayson would have gone to. I imagine Bruce would probably just stick them in the same place, but the wiki gave me different answers for which school he went to. It's probably different across runs and like whenever they like do, what's the technical word, whenever they do like reboots or whatever. I imagine it's different across that. I want to say it's Gotham Academy. I don't exactly know. But besides that, she goes to a new high school, and here is where she becomes friends with a girl named Alia. I imagine she saw that Marinette was, kind of lost. It's a new school. She didn't know who anyone was. She wasn't quite used to being in school again after spending most of her time as Robin and spending most of her time at home. So Alia kind of, picked her up. She's like, you're my friend now. And so she introduced her to all of her other friends, Alia's little group. You have Alex, Rose, Julika, Milen, and Zoe. And then she was also then roped into like their bigger group, which included like Nino, Kim, Max, Nathaniel, Mark, Luca, and Ivan. And Marinette also later found out that she went to the same school as Chloe, who's Zoe's half-sister, and that through Chloe and realizing she went to school with her, that's also how she met Sabrina. She recognized some of her new friends. I imagine she maybe ran into them as Robin a few times. There's also a girl named Iris that's a part of their little group. I think Iris is the right one, whichever one has the bob haircut and the glasses. I'll talk about her. She gonna get her own video very soon. Now, she got pretty close to everyone pretty quick. Like, she was very much immediately accepted. And while, like, I imagine different from, like, Ladybug canon, her hanging out with them probably was a bit different. Like, she probably only really saw them during school hours. I imagine hanging out with them outside of school would have been very difficult. And so we get more little Marinette and her bad excuses. But besides that, they think it's kind of weird that she's constantly making excuses to like skip out on plans, but they don't question it. They just kind of respect her privacy. I imagine they're also like semi-aware of the situation with her parents, so they kind of use that as like, okay, we should probably back off and not like pry too much. We get our good little like inner turmoil conflict, because being Robin is nice, it makes her feel good helping others, but Bruce is still struggling with like the emotional aspect of raising her. I imagine he kind of learned like how to be more of that father figure with Dick, but obviously he hasn't perfected it, so he's still in that kind of learning process with Marinette, but still very like evident that he's not quite 100% sure how to be like the good emotional dad, because he's still struggling with his own emotions. And even then, like, Marinette still like wants to hang out with her friends more. Like, she needs to be with people her age, because she wasn't really close with Dick, and she was on semi-friendly terms with Barbara, who tried to help her whenever she could, but they're like much older than her. But that's besides the point. It is here though where bad things start to happen, because you see, dear viewers, throughout her 3 years at high school, all of her friends are involved in accidents. So first, her sophomore year, it's Chloe, Ivan, Nathaniel, Rose, Kim, Nino, Max, Alex, Milen, Julika, and Sabrina. Lots of people I know. Junior year, it's Kagami and Mark. And then her senior year, it's Zoe, Luca, and Alia. All in that order. Now, a few things are common between like all of these accidents, both intentional and unintentional. Unintentionally, Marinette is present to all of these accidents as Robin. This brought a lot of attention to her as Robin, which brought a bit of a negative light onto her that all of these accidents happened and that she was unable to prevent them. Intentionally, all of the people involved in these accidents were hospitalized in such terrible conditions that they cannot be seen by anyone, as there's the belief that it could interfere with, I guess, like their betterment, that it could interfere with them becoming better. And like their families aren't allowed to see them, their friends aren't allowed to see them. In a sense, they almost disappeared, as not too much later after their hospitalizations, they are relocated to an unknown location to be put under like a more specialized care. And so feeling a sense of guilt, like feeling responsible for what happened to her friends, feeling like she wasn't there to help them, Marinette quit. After Alia, it was over for her. She just like the feeling of like betraying and disappointing her friends and not being able to help them was just building up. But once Alia was gone, it just like crashed, and she quit and she gave up being Robin. She applied to a local college very quickly and then applied to another university to study design, and from there she kind of distanced herself from Batman and from the Bat family. And she was still aware of what was going on with them, kind of with the news and just seeing that new heroes were showing up, but she never really went to visit them. Alfred, I imagine, would visit her the most. I imagine Barbara maybe would also visit her too, maybe just a bit less. Maybe that's how Marinette found out about what happened to her with her paralysis and her switch to Oracle. But she never really got better. She just kept herself busy, working, studying, designing. I imagine through this she was able to create a bit of a name for herself. Like those involved in the world of fashion knew who she was just because of her connection to Bruce and the work she created. But she would do all this work just to kind of distract herself. Like she still never really got over what happened to her parents, and then with what happened to her friend, she never really processed it. And like I said, like she just feels kind of lost again. Bruce continued to do some work on the cases involving her friends, and she would call her up for some answers or for some insights, but that was all she ever, like that was her last connection to Batman. She never continued looking into it herself, and it was something that like she never forgot. It would always be on her mind, but she never looked back into it. And those were kind of like her absent years. But then we see her return as Ladybug. And like I said, this happened after she graduated college, so she's probably around her like mid to late 20s. Because of her work in fashion, she was pushed kind of back into the public eye, especially like with the work she would do for Bruce Wayne. He'd probably commission her to like design stuff for him whenever he'd have to make like a public appearance. That was probably something he'd do to just like at least keep that connection with Marinette, and to let her know that like if she ever needed anyone, that he was there and that the rest of the Bat family was there. But she never really took him up on that offer of kind of reconnecting with the family until there is just a sudden appearance of just a large group of villains. With like the sudden appearance of these villains, she has encounters with each of them. Like she's not central to it, but like she witnesses firsthand like to the chaos that they're causing, and something about them is like familiar to her. Like when she sees them, something in her brain just clicks, and it's enough for her to finally go back to the Bat family and ask Bruce about them and just like see if he has any information, because he's the one who's kind of been dealing with them. And the only info Batman has so far is like basic info on their powers and their abilities, and most of their current crimes seem to be connected. So either they're all working together as a group, or at least working under one person. And since she believes that this is, such a large group of villains and Batman has enough to focus on anyway, she's going to come back as a hero under Ladybug to investigate and stop these villains. and so she suddenly feels that she has responsibility over these villains, so she has to keep an eye on them and figure out what's going on with them. So I suppose that's it. Here is my little drawing that I made. That was just kind of like the setup, I guess. I'm gonna go more in depth about like what happens afterwards, and of course the other characters involved in the story, because I want to make like dedicated speed paints to all of them, just because I have some interesting ideas in mind and I just want to go on and yap about them. Speaking of yapping, I did a lot of that in this video, so if you're still here, thank you for watching. And you should also comment your favorite crossovers, whether it's like DC and Ladybug stuff, or just in general, just crossovers that you think are really cool and that more people should make content for. And if you're also still here, you should also do other YouTube things like comment, share, and subscribe with notifications on, because that matters, I think. And also check out my other socials. I'll have them in my description. And I guess that's it. So thank you for watching my little me just talk about things that I like. And bye bye.